stranger to dealing with natural disasters. You heard my conversation with Secretary Kristi Noem about the disaster down in Texas. The last time your state was dealing with severe weather, you actually praised the federal response, praised the response by Secretary Noem. So let me ask you, just as you look forward, are you confident if disaster strikes again that the federal government will be ready to help your state?
Well, my heart goes out to Texas. We have been through this in Kentucky time and time again. And as a parent of teenagers, the idea that your kids might not come home from camp is just devastating. What's most important is that we put these families first and that we make sure that we learn from this. When we got hit in 2022 and lost 45 Kentuckians, we asked every question after. We didn't shy from anything. We said, when this occurs next time, how do we do better? How do we save 5 more people, 10 more people? And so in 2025, during our 2 floods we've had thus far this year, we saved over 1,000 people in the first 24 hours each time. So what I hope happens is people embrace the questions, because the questions don't have to be a political football and shouldn't be. It's how do we do better? How do we save more lives? How do we get a better weather forecast? Do we have enough people at the National Weather Service? Can we deploy faster than we did this time? All of those things are legitimate if we put the people first and we say we know this is going to happen again. Let's make sure that every time we respond, it's the very best response we've ever seen.
All right, well, let's turn now to President Trump's economic policy. He told me this week he plans to implement blanket tariffs of up to 20% across the board on America's trading partners. As you know, he won your state by some 30 points in 2024. So let me ask you, is this what the people of Kentucky voted for?
No, not at all. This is, what was it, first across the board, then reciprocal, then industry specific. I think there was a company specific tariff proposed. Now we have tariffs on countries if he doesn't like who that country is prosecuting. It is chaos. It is increasing costs. The people of Kentucky, many of them voted for Donald Trump because they thought he'd make paying the bills a little bit easier at the end of the week, and he's just making it harder. I'm seeing small businesses lay people off because of the tariffs on the raw materials that they get. And then Americans put things together and sell them from that. And when a small business is laying somebody off, it's somebody they go to church with. It's somebody who their kids play soccer with. This is going to impact the economy in such negative ways, especially our economy. And then look at what he's doing to critical trading partners like Canada. 22% of our exports go to Canada, or Japan, who he's pushing towards China. Japan invests in Kentucky at a level of almost no other state. The largest Toyota manufacturing facility isn't in Japan, it's in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Well, which takes me to my next question. Staying on the economy, let's talk about, broadly speaking, the president's new tax and spending law, which just went into effect. You heard my conversation with Senator John Barrasso about the work requirements, the estimates that it could kick millions of people off of Medicaid. But Governor, a poll taken this year shows 6 in 10 Americans support work requirements for Medicaid. You've been very clear in your opposition to work requirements, but my question, are Democrats out of step with where the American public is on this issue?
No, because the work requirements are a ruse. What they're doing is they're doubling the paperwork on everyone, not just able-bodied adults, but everyone. What they're hoping is sadly, is that parents with a special needs child who are really busy don't check a box. People who are helping their parents or grandparents with their long-term care needs don't check a box. And then they get kicked off their coverage for 6 months or more. It is wrong, it's cruel, but it's also going to be devastating to rural economies. In my state, we're looking at 200,000 people projected to lose their coverage. 20,000 healthcare workers are going to get fired because of this bill, and 35 rural hospitals, each the second largest employer in their county, may close. What that means is fewer people getting that tax break, fewer people going to the local restaurant, fewer people going to the local bank. This is going to hit rural America to give a tax break mainly to wealthy people who live in urban areas. It's going to hit all over the United States. It is a betrayal of rural America.
Well, it is undoubtedly going to be a major flashpoint as we head towards the midterms, and I do want to talk to you about the future of the Democratic Party. House Republicans launched an investigation, as you know, into Democrats' handling of the state of former President Biden's mental acuity while he was in office. I wonder, Governor, do you think that there needs to be accountability for how Democrats handled the president's mental health while he was in office?
Well, when you're the governor of Kentucky, you see a president maybe twice a year. So what I think is that we ought to be, Democrats, Republicans, etc., accountable for everything we do. We serve the American people. And so we should be judged by not only our actions, but our results. But in the end, it's this political football that we see going back and forth where a win for one is a loss for another. What we've got to get to is a place where we put the people first and we focus on jobs, infrastructure, public safety, public education, and health care, and make sure all the distractions are pushed to the side. You know, so much of what's thrown at people day after day, especially in the news, it makes them think that they don't count, that they're not important, when what they care about the most is supporting their family. I remember being on a bus with a bus driver who was telling me exactly how much her groceries cost every month that she could barely afford, but she also knew exactly how much the vacation cost that she couldn't. That's where the American people want us to focus.
But, Governor, I guess just very quickly, does this investigation on Capitol Hill, do you think it's important in terms of helping to restore some of the trust that was lost in Democrats in 2024?
I think the way we restore trust in Democrats is to show the American people that we are laser focused on their everyday needs, that we are not distracted by other issues, but that we know that paying the bills at the end of the month is way too hard. It's too tough for that new couple to afford their first new home. People are worried about paying for their child's next prescription, and some people don't feel safe in their communities. That's where they want us to be, and that's where my focus is.
All right, well, speaking of your focus, I want to ask you about your focus and your future. You are serving your last term as governor. You have a trip to South Carolina coming up this week. Of course, the early voting state there. So Senator John Barrasso says you're running for president. Are you?
What I'm doing right now is trying to be a reasonable voice out there that hopefully doesn't just bring Democrats back together, but Democrats, Republicans, and independents. You know, this country has gotten far too partisan, too much us versus them. If we can focus on the core issues that lift up every single American, then we can actually move not right or left, but forward as a country. There ain't no such thing as a red job or a blue job. A job is just good for all Americans.
Governor, is it accurate to say you are considering running for president?
Well, right now, what I'm trying to do is speak out for my people and for the American people, especially with this attack on rural America and the big, ugly bill. Next year, I'm the head of the Democratic Governors Association, and because of this attack on rural America, we're going to win a lot of races that people aren't expecting, because a lot of Republican governors have said nothing, and their economies are going to get hit, and their people are going to have to drive 2 hours just to see a doctor when they're sick, whether they're covered by Medicaid or private insurance. And then after that, you know, we'll see. I would have never considered this a couple years ago, but I will not leave a broken country to my kids or to anyone else's. And so if I'm somebody that at that point, and I believe that I can heal the country, then I'll take a look at it.
Okay, so definitely not ruling it out there. Governor Beshear, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And when we come back, Elon Musk announced his new